What if I told you 7 vegetables exist that you plant once and harvest for 20 years without buying seeds again? Seed companies removed them from catalogs decades ago, not because they don't work, because they work too well. Japanese farmers never stop growing them. Here's why you can't find them. Shungiku, edible chrysanthemum, self-seeds so aggressively that seed companies refuse to stock it. Plant once and it returns every year without replanting. The leaves have a unique aromatic flavor used in Japanese hot pots and stir-fries. Harvest greens in spring and fall. Let some plants flower and they drop thousands of seeds that germinate next season. One plant becomes 50 volunteers the following year. Mibuna. Japanese mustard greens regrow from the crown 4 to 6 times per planting. Cut outer leaves and new growth appears within 10 days. One packet planted in spring provides continuous greens through fall. The flavor is milder than arugula with a slight mustard bite. Western seed companies suppress it because one planting eliminates the need for succession lettuce purchases. Mibuna tolerates heat and cold where regular greens bolt or freeze. Shiso. Perilla self-seeds so reliably that gardeners call it a weed. Plant it once and it returns forever. The leaves taste like a cross between basil, mint, and anise. Use them fresh in salads, pickle them with plums, or fry them in tempura. Red shiso makes vibrant pink pickles. Green shiso is the standard culinary type. One plant drops hundreds of seeds in fall. The following spring, seedlings emerge everywhere. Thin them to desired spacing and compost the rest or share with neighbors who will never buy basil transplants again. Myoga. Japanese ginger spreads underground through rhizomes that multiply indefinitely. Seed companies label it invasive to scare gardeners away from a crop that eliminates the need to buy ginger. Plant rhizomes in spring. Year 2. Harvest flower buds that emerge from the soil in late summer. The buds have a ginger citrus flavor used fresh in salads or pickled. Each plant produces 20 to 40 buds annually. The rhizomes spread horizontally underground. One plant becomes 10 within 3 years. Containment is simple. Plant in buried containers or designated areas where spreading is desirable. Cold hardy to zone 5. Myoga overwinters where culinary ginger dies. Ashitaba, tomorrow's leaf earned its name because you harvest leaves today and new ones appear tomorrow. This perennial produces for 5 to 10 years from a single planting. The leaves contain chalcones, compounds studied for longevity and metabolic benefits. Pharmaceutical companies prefer you don't grow your own superfood when they can sell supplements. Plant crowns in spring. Year 2 onward, harvest outer leaves continuously from April through October. Each plant yields 6 to 10 pounds of greens annually over its lifespan. The flavor is celery-like with slight bitterness. Use young leaves raw in salads. Cook mature leaves like spinach or kale. Ashitaba tolerates partial shade and poor soil where annual greens struggle. The deep taproot accesses water during drought, requiring minimal irrigation once established. Udo. Aurelia cordata has no Western equivalent, which is exactly why seed companies don't stock it. They can't sell what people don't recognize. Japanese farmers grow it for blanched spring shoots, summer greens, and fall flowers, all from the same perennial plant. Establish crowns in permanent beds. Each spring, the plant sends up shoots that you harvest when 6 to 8 inches tall. Blanch them by mounding soil over emerging shoots to keep them white and tender. The flavor is mild and slightly sweet, like asparagus crossed with celery. After the spring shoot harvest, let some stems grow for greens. The large leaves are edible, cooked, or raw when young. In fall, the plant produces flower clusters that are edible as tempura. One plant occupies 3 to 4 square feet and produces 8 to 12 pounds of food annually for 10 to 15 years. Udo tolerates 50 to 70% shade, making it valuable for spots where sun-loving crops fail. Divide crowns every 5 to 7 years to maintain vigor and propagate new plants. Katakuri. Asian fawn lily produces edible bulbs and leaves while serving as an ornamental spring flower. The bulbs multiply underground like multiplier onions, creating exponential expansion from a single planting. Seed companies push annual potatoes because you replant yearly. Katakuri bulbs persist for 20-plus years, multiplying naturally without replanting. Plant bulbs 4 inches deep in fall. Spring brings mottled leaves and pink flowers. Harvest leaves in early spring before flowering for salads or cooked greens. Dig bulbs in fall after foliage dies back. Each bulb divides into 2 to 3 bulbs annually. Leave some in the ground to continue multiplying. Harvest surplus for starch extraction or cooking. The bulbs were traditional starch sources in Japan before potatoes arrived. Katakuri requires cold winter dormancy, thriving in zones 4 through 8. The plant tolerates deep shade under deciduous trees, producing food from forest floor space where nothing else grows. 100 bulbs planted initially become 300 within 3 years, 600 by year 5 through natural multiplication. Why seed companies ban? The seed industry operates on planned obsolescence. Hybrid F1 seeds don't breed true, forcing annual repurchases. These 7 crops destroy that business model completely. Shungiku and Shiso self-seed indefinitely. One purchase provides lifetime supply through volunteer seedlings. Seed companies lose perpetual revenue streams. Perennials like Ashitaba, Udo, and Katakuri produce 5 to 20 years from single plantings. Myoga and Katakuri multiply underground, creating exponential expansion without buying more. MIgardener regrows from the crown multiple times, eliminating succession planting purchases. These crops also have natural pest resistance through secondary metabolites. Shungiku contains pyrethrins that repel insects. MIgardener produces glucosinolates that deter aphids and beetles. Shiso has aromatic oils that confuse pests. This natural resistance eliminates pesticide sales. Seed companies are often owned by chemical corporations. Bayer owns Monsanto, ASF, Syngenta, and Corteva dominate both seeds and chemicals. Crops that don't need their products threaten profits across both divisions. The suppression is systematic. Major catalogs don't stock these varieties. Extension offices don't recommend them because they're not commercial crops. Gardening books omit them from planting guides. New gardeners never learn they exist. The knowledge dies with older generations who remember when these were common. Meanwhile, Japanese farmers continue growing them because productivity matters more than corporate profits. One Udo plant produces more food over 10 years than 10 annual asparagus crowns. One Myoga rhizome becomes an infinite ginger supply. One Shiso plant creates hundreds of descendants. This is food sovereignty, and corporations can't profit from it. Sourcing and growing strategy. You won't find these at big box garden centers. Mainstream suppression is deliberate. Specialty seed companies serve the niche market corporations abandoned. Kitazawa Seed Company has operated since 1917. Importing Japanese vegetable seeds. They stock all 7 crops plus dozens more that Western catalogs ignore. Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds carries several through their Asian vegetable section. Evergreen Seeds specializes in perennial and self-seeding varieties, including Ashitaba and Udo. Tradewinds Fruit imports Myoga rhizomes and Katakuri bulbs. Order online directly from these companies. Prices are comparable to mainstream seeds, $3 to $6 per packet, or $10 to $15 for live plants and bulbs. The difference is you buy once. Shiso and Shungiku self-seed forever after the initial planting. Let some plants flower and drop seeds. Thin volunteers to appropriate spacing each spring. You're managing abundance instead of replanting. Perennials need permanent locations. Choose spots based on mature size and light requirements. Udo and Katakuri tolerate shade. Plant them under fruit trees or on north sides of structures. Ashitaba and Myoga need consistent moisture. Place them where soil stays damp. Mark perennial locations clearly so you don't accidentally dig them up during spring cleanup. Myoga spreads aggressively underground. Contain it by planting in sunken containers without drainage holes or install barriers 18 inches deep around the bed. The spreading isn't a problem if you designate a zone where expansion is desirable. More plants equal more harvest. For self-seeders like Shiso and Shungiku, allow some plants to complete their life cycle and drop seeds while harvesting others for food. You're maintaining a perpetual seed bank that germinates in waves. Succession happens automatically without replanting labor. Transplant volunteers to fill gaps or share with others who'll escape the annual seed purchase cycle. The seed saving. Once you grow these crops, you become part of a quiet rebellion against corporate seed control. Seed saving is simple with open pollinated varieties like these 7. Shiso and Shungiku save themselves through self-seeding, but you can also collect seeds intentionally for controlled planting. Let the healthiest, most productive plants flower completely. Wait until seed pods dry and turn brown on the plant. Collect them on a dry day and spread seeds on paper to finish drying for 2 weeks. Store in paper envelopes in a cool, dark place. Seeds remain viable for 5 to 7 years. Label them with a variety name and year collected. Share extras with neighbors and gardening friends. Seed swaps create networks of growers maintaining varieties corporations abandoned. Perennials propagate through division instead of seeds. Ashitaba forms multiple crowns after 3 to 4 years. Dig the plant in early spring before growth starts. Use a sharp spade to split the crown into sections, each with roots and growing points. Replant divisions immediately at the same depth as the original. You've created 3 plants from 1 without buying anything. Myoga spreads through rhizomes that you harvest and replant. Dig sections with at least 3 growth buds. Plant them horizontally 4 inches deep. 1 rhizome becomes 10 within 2 years. Katakuri bulbs multiply naturally underground. When you dig them for harvest, separate the bulb clusters. Replant the smaller bulbs immediately. Eat the large ones. The replanted bulbs grow to full size and divide again next year. This knowledge terrifies seed corporations. You're no longer dependent on annual purchases. You're maintaining the genetics they tried to erase. You're sharing abundance instead of buying scarcity. Every gardener you teach becomes 1 less customer for their hybrid seeds. Every division you share is a sale they'll never make. This is why these crops were systematically removed from mainstream availability. They empower growers with true independence. The seed companies banned them from catalogs, hoping they'd be forgotten. Instead, communities of growers maintain them as living resistance against corporate control. The garden industry built a system where you're always buying something. Spring brings seed purchases. Summer brings fertilizer and pest control. Fall brings soil amendments. Next spring, the cycle repeats because everything died or needs replacing. Annual vegetables fit this model perfectly. They're profitable because they're temporary. These 7 crops destroy profitability through permanence. Think about the economics from the corporation's perspective. If you buy tomato seeds once and save seeds every year after, they lose future revenue. Solution: create F1 hybrids that don't breed true. You can't save seeds because offspring don't match the parent. You're forced to repurchase annually. If you buy 1 perennial that produces 20 years, they lose 19 potential sales. Solution: stop selling perennials entirely. Focus on annuals that die and need replacing. If plants resist pests naturally, you don't buy chemicals. Solution: breed pest resistance. Out of varieties, so chemical dependency continues. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's documented business strategy. Seed patents and terminator genes exist specifically to prevent seed saving. Chemical companies buying seed companies creates vertical integration, where both seeds and inputs come from the same corporation. Your dependency is their profit model. These 7 banned crops escape that model completely. They self-perpetuate through seeds or divisions. They resist pests through natural compounds. They persist for years or decades without replacement. They thrive without chemical inputs. This makes them unmarketable to corporations, but invaluable to growers. The choice is yours. Continue buying what they sell and funding corporate control. Or grow what they banned and reclaim food independence. Japanese farmers made this choice centuries ago. These 7 crops are the evidence. Plant them and understand why corporations wanted them forgotten. Breaking free from annual seeds. Calculate what you spend on seeds annually. The average home gardener purchases $50 to $100 of seeds and transplants each spring. Over 10 years, that's $500 to $1,000 buying temporary crops that die every fall. These 7 crops cost $75 to $125 initially for seeds and plants. After that, inputs drop to nearly zero. You're not buying seeds because plants self-seed or persist as perennials. You're not buying pest control because these crops have natural resistance. You're not buying fertilizers because perennial roots develop deep systems that mine nutrients from subsoil. The only ongoing cost is occasional compost top dressing to maintain organic matter. The financial freedom is obvious, but the deeper benefit is sovereignty. You control your food supply instead of depending on corporations. When seed shortages happen during supply chain disruptions, your garden keeps producing from saved seeds and established perennials. When prices spike, you're insulated because your inputs were paid years ago. When corporations change varieties or discontinue favorites, you're unaffected because you maintain your own genetics through seed saving and division. This independence threatens the business model that profits from your dependency. They want you buying seeds every spring, spraying chemicals every week, and replacing plants that die every fall. These 7 crops break that cycle permanently. Year 1, you're establishing the foundation. Shiso and Shungiku provide immediate harvest while self-seeding for future years. Mabuna gives multiple cuttings in the first season. Perennials are building root systems. Year 2, production jumps as perennials mature and self-seeders return as volunteers. Myoga begins producing flower buds. Ashitaba yields continuous greens. Katakuri bulbs multiply underground. Year 3 onward, the system runs itself. You're managing abundance instead of fighting scarcity, thinning volunteers instead of buying transplants, dividing perennials for expansion instead of purchasing new plants. The work shifts from annual replanting to harvest and preservation. That's the garden industry's nightmare and your liberation. Your first season start with 3 crops this spring to learn the system without overwhelming yourself. Shiso is foolproof. Plant seeds after the last frost. Harvest leaves all summer. Let plants flower in fall. Even volunteers will appear next spring everywhere. Shungiku grows similarly but tolerates cold. Plant in early spring or late summer for fall harvest that survive light frost. Mibuna provides cut and come-again greens within 40 days of planting. These 3 cost $15 to $25 total and establish self-perpetuating production. Next year, add perennials. Ashitaba and Myoga rhizomes planted in spring establish root systems year 1 and begin producing year 2. Udo and Katakuri require more commitment because they need permanent spots and patience. But the 10 to 20-year production timelines justify the investment. By year 3, you have a garden that produces without annual seed purchases. You're saving money, growing superior varieties of corporations suppressed, and participating in food sovereignty instead of corporate dependency. The seed companies don't want you to know these crops exist. Now you do. Plant them, save seeds, share with others, break the cycle.